Okay, I'm going to talk about the Incredible Gospel of Judas. Bart Ehrman will talk about this, and I think her name is Megan. He'll be talking with her in a video. I want to give a shout out. I think a lot of what you're saying is accurate, Bart, but I want to put this out there. A lot of this is going to make more sense when I bring in, and many people might automatically know where I'm going with this, the Samaritan text about the Anunnaki, and then the fire beings, that was the other part. I'm trying to go through here because one of the points you're missing in is the jokester character. Yeah, we're all in the demerge, but it's harder to die. More you go in, that's maybe with this gospel text, that's why Jesus wanted to die, because he was tempted with the first life. Because if you do this mingling, this topology of mingling, the merge, the one who thought he was the one true God in the upper things were we, because the Anunnaki aren't really that bad. In the Gospel of Judas, those were they're just like us, neighboring planets. It's the topography of right and wrong. If you look at it in the jokester way, they're all kind of idiots. The Anunnaki is more in the text, as you know, as if you read it more historically. Now you got to put some time into this thing. I'm sorry, you just do. But when you'll see, like, there was like 7 attempts of genetic modifications, and they had to save their planet Nibiru. That's where you get the name in there, Nibiru. You mean, I can't believe you went that direction. You should have seen that as Nibiru, as the Samaritans, as they came from the planet Nibiru, the Anunnaki. That's how you make that kind of a connection. They had to save their planet, and they needed gold around their planet. And actually today, that's how they mark how they would do it today. And you go through all the Samaritans of it, and you really need to invest in the time. Now, I don't know the whole connection between these fire beings as much. I know they got their allotment. One of them went to Israel, and they were kind of doing their bullshit thing, but they weren't perfect too. They were just kind of like, and they've done this because there's like 7 in our galaxy, blah, blah, blah. But they're kind of in the bullshit too, because the longer you go, the harder it is for you to die. That's why they can't win the God who's blind, because everyone else, it's like, as the Buddhists and all that goes, it's like, well, we're eyeing ourselves, it's like we're just starting it all over again, because we would just end up going mad. So we regurgitate everything just to make everything new again. So we end up inheriting it, and someday it's like, well, I'll be sitting kind of on a throne, and it'll be like, well, I wonder how it is to be a caterpillar. And then people would be like, dude, you could go have a whole bunch of sex with a whole bunch of girls. Yeah, it's like, well, I've tried that, but it'd be on mini pass, and you can kind of go from there. But besides all that, because that's a different kind of category within the Samaritan and the Anunnaki, because people, when you talk about that, they think they can just use that as an excuse. But go talk about the Eden thing, like before we became Adam, which arrived in the Old Testament, we were these like off breeds, like donkeys. We couldn't reproduce. See that thing? You could just see it when you read the text. And then they create us, and then we get kicked out. And then they finally leave. And then you see later on how the flood myth especially gets in the Old Testament gets adapted later on, because it comes later on, especially the story of Noah, the Uptotman, or whatever his name, and how Anunnaki, the Elil, or I can't remember his name. See, his depiction right there is a good or bad. One of the questions that you were saying about who one scholar says this person could be good or bad thing. See, that's the thing. If you don't see the joke part in it, it's like, well, they were all kind of in it. He was kind of the character. But we're all in the demerge. You notice that. And even these huge, big-ass dumb beings, it's just that the farther you go, the more it's like you just live and you never sleep. It's like it says in the Old Testament that they never sleep. That's because it's harder for them to kill themselves. Well, that's why they're so powerless, because once you do it, you when you go into the afterlife, it's like You don't go into the white light. You go into the dark, but it's dark, but you stay in the dark, which is basically silence. The other is just temptation, high reinforcement. And then I guess a door opens and you get 3 witnesses, which I think if you do the patternization, it's more of a mental abstract. Carlin Young would agree upon that, but if you do it the other way, but you can see the bullshit in the other way too. It's like, those are good questions. I get the joke, why they're asking them. But if you don't do the third, you get like reincarnated, and each time you go back in, the aura, it gets harder to return. That's because you're in a situation now, reincarnated, that you're in a situation now that is putting you perhaps on. See, AI, I don't want to get into AI, but they're kind of like borderline stuff. We just don't know, but I don't want to get. But it's when you go back into it, it gets harder and harder to get out. But just my thing, guys, is sorry to get into that, Bart. But look into the Samaritan stuff and the Anunnaki as more historical than what you think. And I hope that helps.